Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be watching this video. Today is another episode of This Week in Flare, where we go over all the main events that happened in the Flare ecosystem this week. Today, we'll be covering a FAssets version 1.1 update. We'll go over the results of the Flare in Google Cloud AI Hackathon. We'll get into a little bit of what's been going on in the Oracle Wars, and then we'll wrap up this video. With that being said, let's get into today's content. So starting off with an update around FAssets v1.1, according to Hugo, they're tying up a lot of things, they're finalizing a lot of things, and they're essentially getting ready to put the bow on what would be the delivery of FAssets version 1.1. So based off of Hugo's most recent update, they are finalizing audits, which will begin on Monday. They're assembling parties to decentralize the core vault, and they're essentially working to get all this code included in the code base by Friday, which by the time you're watching this video, that would have been 2 days ago. So all of these things they're getting ready to essentially get wrapped up for the end of the week. And then again, audit starting on Monday, which once the audit process starts, there's only a matter of time before they can actually go out and release FAssets. So not really worried about the timeline on this. It seems like they're working very quickly. It didn't really seem like there was a whole lot left in terms of getting code changes prepared and things of that nature for FAssets v1.1. So it's only a matter of time before we get that announcement. All right, moving on to the Flare in Google Cloud AI Hackathon, which wrapped up earlier this week. We got a nice live stream presentation featuring Dinesh from the Flare team and the AI Hackathon participants and prize winners. So it was definitely nice being able to get a walkthrough of each individual project. We got to listen to each team discuss, how they came up with their idea, why they went about, developing it the way in which they did, their experiences working with the Flare AI kit, and all sorts of things. So if you haven't watched this live stream, it's still up, it's still available. I'll have a link in the description of this video. I encourage you to go watch it. It gave a nice sneak peek into what could be built with the Flare AI kit. And then it also talked about how the Flare AI kit will continue to improve. If developers find ways of improving certain things, then, what's the process of getting those vetted and included in the Flare AI kit for future use. It was also nice to find out that each hackathon winner or prize winner will be fast tracked into the grants program, which will again continue to help them develop and improve their projects. So definitely looking forward to seeing what these teams build and seeing how they get their projects production ready for mainnet release or what have you in the future. And I hope to see more of this. I definitely like being able to somewhat get a sneak peek into the mind of developers and really understand how they interact with the tech stack, what they like, what they don't like, some areas of improvement, things of that nature. So I thought this was pretty cool to see, and kudos to the Flare team for allowing the rest of the community to be able to see this. So looking forward to seeing more of this. All right, so getting into the Oracle Wars a bit. If you rewind a few days, roll the tape back, this all started when an attacker or an exploiter took out a highly leveraged position on the Hyperliquid protocol. For those that don't know, Hyperliquid is a perps trading platform very similar to what SparkDex offers on SparkDex Eternal. The exploiter took their position out against the Jelly token, which has a low level of liquidity on the Hyperliquid protocol. So any minor trade can send the price of the asset going crazy in any direction. Obviously, with a high leverage position out against a token or an asset with low liquidity can present some risk to the protocol. Given the risk potential of this high leverage trade, the Hyperliquid validators seemed to feel the need to get proactive in mitigating this risk. Our good friend Amy, the head of marketing at Flare, gives a solid synopsis on this entire event and really the eventual action that Hyperliquid took to mitigate the risk. To sum it up, Hyperliquid's validators forcibly settled all positions against the Jelly token at 0.095 cents, which was the attacker's entry price, instead of allowing the asset to be settled at the current market price, which was about 50 cents. Essentially, this resulted in a major loss to the attacker, but a 700K profit for Hyperliquid and its validators. This obviously brought into question the legitimacy of Hyperliquid's oracles and the difference between enshrined oracles and any other oracle that follows a different practice, aka Chainlink. Obviously, this sparked conversation and an intellectual back and forth between Hugo Fillion and members of the Chainlink community ensued. I actually found this back and forth a bit entertaining and enlightening. I think it's a good exercise to test your thesis against others from time to time, especially when you may be in similar lanes, but you're going about achieving your goals a bit differently. The differences in philosophy and things of that nature was very enlightening to kind of get my head wrapped around. Clearly, these are some very intelligent individuals, but they feel strongly about their approaches. So, and I like Spicy Hugo. Anytime Flare Network is being called out, you can, especially as of late, you can always count on Hugo to chime in and not take any level of disrespect, whether it's intended to be disrespect or, it comes off as a bit, underhanded spiciness from the other side of the aisle within the space. I love when Hugo chimes in. So the fact that Hugo is very open with how strongly he feels about his ultimate vision and the team's vision of achieving what Flare is out to achieve, that's always a good sign. I'm always here for it. I'm always going to be grabbing my popcorn and following the action. So, all right, so there's been a lot of anticipation for the arrival of FAssets, not just within the community, but also outside of the community, and those who they try to keep up, but they aren't as plugged into what's going on in our Flare community as they would like, and that's totally fine. I think this is where content creators in the Flare community have a responsibility to step up and help educate those as to what's going on, the developments, how things work, all sorts of things. If we expect people to be as excited as we are about what's coming to the Flare network, what's already been deployed to the Flare network, then we have a responsibility, at least I feel like, to help educate and help spread the word. With that being said, me and the guys over at Flare Forward, shout out to Steve and Will, we teamed up to do a reactionary video to some content published by Zach Rector, where Zach detailed that he is indeed bullish on what's going on in the Flare network, but he has some concerns in terms of the window of opportunity being closed, which is totally fine. And I look forward to assisting in educating many of those outside of the Flare network and even within the Flare network. So with that being said, be on the lookout for any content collaborations between myself and the Flare Forward team. And we also have several other content creators in the community that make amazing content, and it's very educational, so be sure to check that out when you see it. And that's really it for today's video. I hope you found the video informative, entertaining, and with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.